water, excuse me. Yes, do not adjust your screens. I'm actually doing it live. Ripping the Band-Aid off. I have been not purposely avoiding it, I just haven't done it in a long time. There's been things going on at the shop and a little bit out of the habit of making videos and such, but I figured, hey, today is as good as a day as any to start again, and a Q&A is a nice, easy way to do it. Haven't updated on anything really in a while, so give you guys a second to come in. Feel free to ask some questions, chat about some new equipment that's come out that we have been testing, whatever you want. Here for your pleasure and enjoyment. Hopefully you can hear me okay. If you can, let me know. There's some people coming in, nice. Chat filter, all messages. Okay. Yeah, feel free to fire away. I'm here for now. Jackson said he sent a DM about a lab on Insta. Yeah, there's a couple left, but I'll get back to you. Yep, I was just selling a couple of we had a couple custom ones that we had here for demos that, I mean, frankly, they're taking so long to be delivered that there's been some demand for people just to kind of buy the ones that are already in town. So I'm selling a few. I will get back to you if you just did that recently. Have I ever collected Scotty Camerons? No, I wouldn't say so. I've had a few. I have one right now. I've had one other one in the past. I had a Scotty Cameron Red X when I was young. I have one of the new studio style ones now. But no, I wouldn't say I collect really anything golf-wise. I'm okay to sort of have it, use it till I've had enough of it, and then kind of give it away to somebody or donate it or something. I'm not an unsentimental person, but with golf clubs, I guess I sort of am. Is an eBay QI10 the best value in golf right now? I don't know. Depends on how well it fits you. It's an okay driver if it suits you. I'm sure that the deals on it are very, very good, given that they would have already been on sale retail-wise, probably for like 35% off new. So I'm guessing that if someone's selling one on eBay, it's even cheaper. Okay, Danny's having his first lesson in 7 years. He's in his 30s. He's playing well, just blocking everything right. How do I prep for the lesson? I don't really know they need to prep for the lesson, but I would just communicate clearly when you come in to see the teaching pro about what's going on. What are you seeing on the golf course? What are you working on in practice? But it's really up to them to tell you what's going on. I mean, obviously, if someone comes in here and they give me a little bit of background and they say, you know, I've been playing okay, but I'm hitting it right. I'm getting them warmed up for 5 minutes. I'm dotting up their 7-iron. They're hitting on GC quad. I'm getting numbers. I've got high-speed cameras rolling. I'm figuring out the solution for them pretty quickly. So I don't generally expect people to come in here with some kind of like detailed preparation, a little history about what's happening. I do get people, I kind of say like, you know, what's going on in the course, and they literally can't answer it. So as long as you're not that person, you know, have some background about what you've been seeing on the course, what are you struggling with, and then just be clear about what you want to achieve. So, you know, if you've been pushing it, you know, are you looking to play a draw? Are you looking to play a pull fade? Like, what do you want? Is it all your clubs? Is it your drivers? Is it your short clubs? Just communicate clearly, because that's the best. After that, it's up to the person coaching you to deliver, well, at least deliver the answers, not necessarily. They can't guarantee a solution because it's still up to you to hit the ball. What would I do for a golfer who has a lot of excess speed but struggles with consistency, especially in the irons? Well, it's possible, Jackson, that the way you create speed also creates issues with like your face control. So that's an easy one. You might create speed with, you know, let's say an over-rotated backswing, or an excess amount of hinge, or an extreme amount of, call it lag, or like the length of the time you keep lag. There might be power sources that are often consistency leaks, and it's pretty common. That's why you don't really see that many, extremely fast players on tour that hit it really, really straight, or let's just say hit a lot of fairways and greens. Probably the best example of that is someone like a Rory McIlroy kind of guy. But, when he's on, he has amazing driver stats. Danny, thank you for that. It's much appreciated, especially in the current recession up here. Every dollar counts. Yeah, you don't see a ton of people with extreme clubhead speed that hit it that straight. And so you have to look in detail about what's going on there. I'm not saying you have to swing slower. There might be something simple that's going on why you're losing, control with your I'm getting, it's either loft or face control or something. There's really only so much I can tell you, via this. If you want to really see and get detailed answers, something like coming in here, for example, would be a great idea. If you wanted to set up an online lesson and send me some swings, obviously I don't do that for free, but you could send me a DM. I have some time, so hopefully that's somewhat helpful for you. Have I tried the new TaylorMade Zero Torque putters? No, actually I need to send a couple messages to my TaylorMade reps, because I'm starting to get some questions about them. I mean, the thing is, listen, I'm not shitting on Lab at all. I think they've done a really good job. I still like having their stuff in the shop. I think they're a really good company. But especially in Canada, by the time you get one up here, if you do anything to it custom-wise, if you put a graphite shaft in it, a lot of people paying like $1,000 or more for a custom putter. So people have been DMing me about some of these custom ones I have here, and yeah, Canadian dollars. Like I think retail is actually closer to $1,100, and I'm trying to give people a little bit of a deal and save them, but it's still like $1,000 putters. So guys like TaylorMade. I think Scotty's got a proto. I'm sure that won't be cheap exactly. I know Odyssey has one out. Yeah, I want to get some of those in. I mean, I'll be frank with you. I can't say that I exactly have people bursting the door down for putter fittings right now, so it hasn't been a super big priority. But yeah, I would like to get more in here. This is my icebreaker to get my face back on camera. And I actually just hit a few balls just now. Shockingly, haven't been doing much of that. The thing is, the last few months, I think all of us are aware that if you run a business, especially in this country, things have been tough. Things have been quiet. People are watching their spending. People are playing golf, but they're not really spending money on golf per se. The tariff stuff has caused a lot of problems, a lot of trade problems, a lot of extra fees, shipping stuff, delays. So I've been a little bit buried when it comes to that kind of stuff mentally, a little bit less mentally available to turn a camera on and be enjoyable to listen to, because I don't want to turn a camera on and be a miserable because who the hell wants to listen to that? So it's one of those things. I know this about myself. I have to just get back into it. I like interacting with people. I like talking to people, so I'm getting back into it. In terms of testing stuff like a zero torque putter, what do you test really, right, with putters? That's one thing I kind of want some kind of system for. I'd like to be able to give people good feedback about testing. Does it involve like a little simple, like, putting man robot, like a not non-mechanical, like a manual one where it just makes the same stroke over and over again? You kind of clamp it in there and get roll numbers. Yes, I'm interested in stuff like that, but when I fit someone for a putter, 40 minutes out of the hour is usually a lesson anyway, honestly, because that's what most people need. So. Yeah, I mean, they're there. The zero torque thing is interesting. I still have no idea how long it's going to last. I think there's fads, and then you see how long they last. I've personally been, I don't think I'm wrong, but I've been surprised that mini drivers have had any sort of staying power on the PGA Tour specifically. But again, the PGA Tour has nothing to do with regular people playing golf. It's like nothing to do with it. I mean, I know we like to think that we could play certain things in holes like a PGA Tour player, but let's just say it's basically nothing in common with us. So the way that they use that club is very different, and the purpose. Usually I see someone with a mini driver in their bag because they've given up on their driver, they feel more confident in it, whatever, and that's all So the zero torque putter thing, I'm still not, I'm still not convinced is superior. I literally just had someone in today putting with a bunch of different, stuff and just doing basic like face control tests. And people are very finicky when it comes to stuff. They roll a bunch of putts. One set of 5 putts are like, oh, I really feel like I'm holing everything here, and we're literally putting on a flat putting green. There's only so much you can learn. And of course you can put stuff on, Quintic and all these things and tell people this shaft lean and this roll quality, but like performance on the golf course and performance in this type of environment are so different that I like to be realistic with people, and I don't like putting false stuff in their mind. I don't like making them think that they can only putt well with a certain toe hang and this kind of thing. So, as you guys have probably learned over the course of my independent, I guess, YouTube career, I'm a little bit more on the skeptical side when it comes to this type of stuff, because not only do I not like it, I refuse to delude people. I refuse to participate in like equipment delusion. It's challenging as someone who makes money from selling equipment, but I just refuse. If it's not clearly beneficial for someone, I have no stomach to say things that convince them to buy it, even though it's nonsense. Do you know what I mean? So I want people to be happy about what they bought. If you want to buy something, great. But all of these things you have to be careful about. Like, it's very, very much in the news, so to speak, zero torque this, zero torque that. But a lot of the players, to be fair, that are messing around with those type of putters on tour are not putting well. They're not usually guys that are just like, I don't know, like pick someone like a JT Poston. I know he's not a guy that wins a million tour events, but he's always like a high putting stats guy. If he's all of a sudden in 140th in putting stats, you might see him test out a zero torque putter. But at the moment, I'm pretty sure he just has like a pretty traditional, I don't even know, he might have like a heel shafted putter even. So, yeah. I feel like I repeat myself a lot with equipment, but I try to be realistic, guys, because it's the only way to live. And it's the only way that you can give people what I would say real confidence and not delayed disappointment. You can make things seem a certain way in an environment like this, and I'm not going to call it dishonest, but it's misleading. But it's a delayed disappointment, because that person will go out on the golf course with whatever you've sold them, and they will probably still perform in a very similar vein to what they had before, unless it's drastically different. I'll give you an example. Today, I had a really nice guy come in. He came in for a full bag fitting. Yes, he is going to get a full new set of clubs because his were old as hell, and he wanted to refresh them. But the first 45 minutes, I'm not exaggerating, changed an 8-degree outside in path with a many degree open face to a slightly inside out draw pattern. Not saying every single swing, but I taught him, and he was able to execute how to do that. And that was part of his experience here. It changed what I fit him for. It changed his entire perception of like what he's capable of. And that person leaves with not only hope, but like when they go to the golf course, they're going to actually see multiple things happen. Yes, they'll see a bit of the benefit of the equipment that was slightly better for him. Great. But more so, that's a person who now understands what goes on with their swing, why the ball does what it does, how to actually change it, what does it take to change it. And that's what I do here. And it's very difficult to replicate. And that's why, I believe in it. It's just hard to do at scale. And we're slowly adding some guys, really good guys that I've met that are going to come in and start working here part-time. If you're watching this and you've looked at my schedule, and I'm totally okay with saying this, if you're like, whatever, I'm not paying that much for Matt's time, or Matt's schedule availability is too limited, I get it. So we've got a couple guys coming in that have spent quite a bit of time with me already that actually were former customers of mine, that like they're going to be really strictly Golf Liberty philosophy type guys. They're going to carry on that when I'm not the person doing the session. Obviously, I'm still doing sessions, but we have that available now, which we never had before. It's only been a couple years. So I want more people to come here, because what I've done here, I'm now very confident in. When I started it, the first year, I'm like, I don't even know if this is gonna make sense. Can people, can you fit people for equipment and help them with their swing? Can you execute that? It's very challenging. But what I've learned is that people find it really rewarding. They're very happy. Less people care about sitting and getting a data set of 50 perfect shots with the exact club spec that they are going to get recommended. People are starting to, I'm seeing, they care less about that, more about, oh, what did you show me with my swing? Oh, you can help me change my delivery. Then they're like, oh, okay, great. And I'm like, here are some heads and shafts that would make sense for that. Let's make a rational decision based on those things, but let's really prioritize the fact that like you're changing this part of your technique. So that's what this place is about. And we just want more people to come in here. That's all. More people to come in. There'll be more, there'll be more accessible time and rates and hours and coaching and all that kind of stuff. So if you're watching this and you want to come in and you haven't looked at, our website in a while, get on there. And if you don't want to book with me, that's fine. But Eric is available and Kieran's available. They just started. They're doing great already, spending time with me. We've got other plans to have what I would call like an analysis session where you can come in. We're going to have an intern sort of just like supervise where you can come in and use the hitting bay, get numbers on clubs that you want, accurate numbers on GC Quad, get some high-speed footage from Swing Catalyst, and then like have that emailed to you to be saved. So you can actually, I would call it better than a practice session, more like a baseline. So even if you had a coach, or even if you're like, I don't know where I even want to start, we're going to start having that available as well. So there's a lot of stuff in the works, as you can imagine. Okay, what are my thoughts and concerns about vertical movement in the swing? Seems to help with rhythm and speed, but how much is too much? So you have to be careful about vertical movement depending on where it's coming from. So if you, I feel like I missed someone's question. Oh, Rizwan said Eric did an awesome job with him. Good, awesome, but I'm glad to hear that. Thank you for saying that, and I'm not surprised. He's off to a great start. The vertical movement, meaning you have to be careful you're not moving like segments of your body, like you're not just like taking your rib cage and raising it inches or moving it backwards or upwards. Vertical movement coming out of your legs, for example, is very necessary. You need to have a little bit of, call it trail leg straightening occurring just based on like your pelvis movement in the backswing. You need to have quite a bit of lead side, call it like your lead side pelvis needs to be elevating and working kind of up and back in the follow through, let's call it, and downswing in order to sort of like clear properly. So how much is too much is, again, it's hard to say with any certainty, but based on what you're saying. But you have to be careful about excesses of it. You will see long drive guys with a ton of movement. But remember, long drive is not golf. So long drive is done for the purposes of hitting the ball with as much speed as possible with the best launch conditions possible. One time in the grid out of 10, and great, you win. That's not what golf is like. So just because something produces more speed at times or whatever, or you flush one, doesn't mean that it's a way for you to play, really repeatable golf. I'm also not encouraging you to be like extremely rigid, but if you look at the straight hitters, usually the segments of their body are pretty efficient in the way that they rotate. They stay sort of in their lane a little bit, and the verticality is coming, let's just say as a general statement, a little bit more out of the lower body than the upper body. Daniel, thanks for saying that, bud. I struggle with being snappy at the top, and then I get stuck at impact with a block or a hook. Snappy. Depends on what you mean by snappy, bud. If you're mostly hitting blocks and hooks, I would be a little less concerned with like tempo or transition. I would be a lot more concerned with dynamic face angle, for example, depth at the top of your arms. There's probably a reason you put the club way behind you, and there's probably a reason that at times you push it and at times you hook it. Somebody with blocks and hooks is, in my experience, I've lost count of how many swings I've watched in high speed. That person, and you're looking at one of them, is almost exclusively a dynamically closed face kind of guy. And I mean that in a way that it's too close relative to the speed of their other body segments. So, having been on 3D myself, my lower body actual speed and upper body actual speed are slower than they should be. And my club face, because it gets a little bit shut dynamically, can get ahead of all those things. And for me, yeah, I can pull it or hook it or hang on to it. So it's very hard to say, Daniel, but I'm guessing if a block and hook is the type of thing you're seeing, if you're seeing like really inside out paths and then sometimes it just snaps, look more at, wrist conditions and dynamic face angle. I'm guessing that would be more up your street. Okay, any good alternatives to dynamical 105 but a bit heavier? You could look at the dynamical mid 115. That would be a little bit heavier and not that different because it sounds like you love the feel of that shaft. I know that the mid and the 105 aren't the exact same shaft, but as I say to a lot of people, you guys have to remember all these companies have a million different models of stuff. And yes, they have this designation and this profile. You have to remember you're talking tiny amounts. It's like you're talking about driver CG locations and adjustability. You're talking about millimeters if you're lucky. So all this stuff is very small amounts of everything. So yeah, that would be one to look at, an obvious one. A Project X like IO, I think, is about 110 grams. I know, again, it's a bit different, but if you're just looking for a little bit more weight, I mean, again, you also have to ask yourself, why do you want a little bit more weight? But just, what's the purpose of it? Does it feel like you're losing it? Is it too flexible? There's a big difference between something being too light and being too flexible. Often the lighter shafts are higher torque, so maybe that's more your problem. Maybe you actually need more stiffness. Maybe the weight of it isn't that much. But Canadian Open picks, you know what? I haven't given it a lot of thought, if I'm being totally honest. I didn't really look at the field all that closely, but honestly, a Canadian winner would be my hope and my dream because it makes for about as exciting a Canadian Open as possible. But there's a good field. I mean, I think since RBC got involved as a sponsor, they have a big roster of really good players. The money involved is much higher now. I think this year's venue is an interesting one. A lot of people who live in this area would probably have played up at TPC Toronto before. The course that they're playing has been renovated, so maybe some people haven't seen that part. But the place is wild. I mean, they spent a gazillion dollars, new clubhouse, resort style lodges and stuff. So I think it'll show well on TV. I think the guys will like it. But I don't really even bet on golf, to be honest with you. I think picking someone to win a tournament is like, you might as well buy a lottery ticket. Who knows? There's so many guys, right? Okay, am I watching Stick on Apple TV? It came up on my suggested the other day. I will probably watch it at some point. I'm trying to not let my life be all golf is the best way I could describe it. I think many people who work in the industry or even play a lot of golf are familiar with this. You need other things. It can't just be all about one thing. So, to some degree, I have to consider I work here. Everything I do during the day is golf, which is fine. It's definitely the career that I would say I picked for a reason. If I do something recreationally outdoors, it's golf. So when I turn on the TV, I don't know that I really need to also make that a fictional show about golf because I also watch a bit of golf on TV. So I'll probably watch a little bit of it sometimes. I do find fictional shows, generally speaking, and movies about golf to be a little on the cheesy side. But I don't want to be negative. It looks. I like Owen Wilson. Honestly, the preview looked pretty good. Mitch, thank you. Appreciate that. I'll buy myself lunch with that. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, generally speaking, guys, I think probably a lot of people have asked me. You haven't been on YouTube much. You haven't been doing lives much. It's a tough one right now, just because again, we especially in Canada, we have a serious economic decline, a serious recession. So time-wise, I have to be careful with what I'm doing with my time. If I make a YouTube video, I don't want it to be this way, but it has to make some money on ad revenue. If I do a live, it has to make some money on super chats and stuff like that. That's not the spirit of why I do it. It's not the part that I enjoy, but I'm also running a business here. So when I choose to spend time on something, I have to be mindful of that kind of thing. So the reason I've been more absent from it is not really that per se, but there's just been a lot going on. It's been a challenging time to run To run a small business in this country that technically sells something that's a luxury, it's been tough. It's taken a little bit of a toll on me mentally, where turning on a camera and talking about stuff, it feels a little bit challenging, because you're almost just like, man, there's a lot of other stuff going on, a lot of stress. So I appreciate when you guys tune in. I literally haven't done this in forever, and there's many of you that have tuned in and have nowhere to watch, which I appreciate. And I'll leave this one up at least for a week, so people can kind of watch me blab through some of these questions. Can you recommend drills that help one open their lead hip in the downswing? Probably, but I will say this, Chris, I don't remember the last time that is the thing that I worked on with somebody in a lesson. I know that may sound a little odd to you. I don't remember the last time I looked at someone's swing, particularly in the first few lessons, and went, the main thing you need, the first thing you need is this lead hip to get more open. I don't know how realistic it is for an adult, especially that started golf later in life, to pursue this really open looking impact position where you can see both ass cheeks kind of thing. You got guys on tour that started doing that when they were 3 years old. It's not even just about a flexibility thing. It's just about literally the way your brain goes about hitting a ball. It's taking the easier route. And leaving your hands and leaving your body and being totally passive with those things, and opening this whole forward side to actually rotate through a ball. To make yourself do that and expect that you can change your dominant motion to that at a time when you probably have a life and a job and you play golf, on a regular basis. I don't like to waste people's time and give them false hope that that's realistic. I think a lot of people would be better off looking at a swing. Rory's plenty open at impact, but he's not like a Morikawa at impact kind of thing. And that's why a lot of people come in here, if they're asking, should I pursue hitting a fade, this and that, it's like, you're not going to be able to hit a fade the way that Morikawa hits a fade, like from a physical standpoint. So most people, they'd be better off having a decent amount of literally a phone call derailed me there. That should not have happened. I would say starting like you feel like your lead side initiates, call it the downswing, a little bit before your hands reach the top of the backswing, would be a sequencing drill that I can honestly say I feel is worthwhile. I did a little bit of that with Ian Meller on the 3D system. That would be a fairly worthwhile thing for people, and especially with chipping. Like if you find you're very dumpy with your hands and chipping, like getting your lead side to feel like it. But really, the exact way you do it, you have to be careful with it. You can't just spin your hips open. Technically, what you want to feel is that out of your forward foot, you're pushing sort of the lead hip a little bit up and a little bit back. So you're for a right-handed golfer, your left ass cheek is kind of going behind you and a little bit high. And so that allows kind of the legs to clear. Just be careful with that as a priority. Again, if you depending on how good of a player you are, you just make sure you don't sit on a range doing drills like that and going, this is gonna make me a better player. And then 9 months later, you have nothing to show for it. And not even visually. You may have nothing to show for it visually. You may have nothing to show for it in consistency. I like to work with people on stuff that's more functionally beneficial, often like stuff to do with club face and path and all that kind of stuff, contact, low points. Thank you guys, appreciate that. Yeah, Michael, I appreciate you saying that, but yeah, I think, when it comes to reviewing clubs and stuff, I've gotten way too bogged down in, needing to be, doing it a different way than other people, or like better or more scientific or more objective, or I think I've just lost myself in that, and it's just been unnecessary. And I think I've forgotten that what what I can offer people is extremely honest and just unbiased opinions while hitting and trying something, and then reference what I've seen also from like real people that I deal with in the shop. And so I've just I've allowed myself to kind of get paralyzed with that initial like, oh well, then how should I be doing it kind of thing. And so I get in this habit where I don't make a video unless I feel like, wow, this video is really important. It has to be done. Like people have to hear about this. It's like, actually, no, that's not really true. There's little things that are interesting about literally just hitting a couple different models of a current ping driver, and like discussions I can have about stuff like that. So yeah, I appreciate you saying that. I think I hope my goal was to this shop I've maintained the integrity of I don't give people nonsense to sell clubs. The only things that happen here are the straight goods. We don't mislead people here whatsoever, and it throws people off guard sometimes. They'll ask me questions about shaft profile, this and this, and I'll just go, dude, that is so not on your radar. Like asking me about a swing weight point, and it's like, you just told me you wanted to break 90 this year, so what are you worrying about a swing weight point? Like, let's not talk about this stuff, because all it's doing is occupying space in your mind. So yeah, I think I need to get more comfortable with just having my own opinion in space and not worrying about it being a style that, let's just say, I used to do on another YouTube channel, for example. It doesn't need to be that way. So I know why I've gotten out of the habit of it, and believe me, I intend to fix that, because it doesn't exactly need to be perfect. I just need to get in there and give my opinion and keep it light, keep it interesting, give some information, be concise, don't prattle on about marketing crap, and just give people realistic opinions about stuff and the swing, and that's what I like doing. That's what I do here anyway. So thank you, Dennis. Thoughts on the new Max Fly ball? I did not realize that it's won on tour twice this year. A nice customer of mine dropped some off. I hit some. The numbers seemed like they were pretty good for a tour style ball. I never, no ability to test it outside over a long period of time and tell you if it's durable or how it is in the wind or something, as I have other things to do. But yeah, I think for the money, if you're in the States, I think it's really good. I know a few Canadians that will like buy a few boxes when they're down in the States and then like bring them back up. But I think for the price, yeah, it's hard to beat. I think if you have a Dick's Sporting Goods around you, that's kind of a hard one to beat. I don't know enough data-wise to tell you if it's superior to other like direct-to-consumer type balls. I don't know that, but I would say, if I was sitting here in the U.S. and people were asking me, hey, what would you buy for a good value? I would recommend those. Because I'm not, and they don't sell them here, I usually tell people Strixon balls, one of the Z-Star balls, because they're very economical, mainly because they're almost always on sale. So at full pop, they're not that great of a deal, but at their usual discount, which is pretty much all the time, or you buy 2 boxes, they're a very good deal, and they're you save 30-40% over Pro Vs, and Pro Vs are a fantastic ball. You could it doesn't happen that often, but I've played a few rounds where I hit the ball well, and I look at the ball at the end of the few rounds, I'm like, I could keep playing this. So there is a reason they're more expensive, I get that, but we don't, some of us are losing a few balls around. We don't need to be blowing our entire year's budget on crazy golf balls necessarily. Thanks, Jack. Anything, tips for someone with lower back pain? You need to, the things you don't want to hear. You need to rest it more than you actually want to. You need to treat it. I wouldn't say I've ever had a lower back pain problem, but I've had a variety of back and shoulder things. I do find that like heat treatment as like a maintenance thing is helpful, but I don't know why you have back pain. So whether you may have inflammation, you may have pulled something, you may have an overuse problem. If you can go and see someone coach-wise that can look at your swing and give you some insight as to whether like, oh boy, you look like you put a lot of stress on your back. Just keep in mind, that's not something that a common coach can do for you. You might need to seek out the analysis or advice of someone who's a little bit more on the advanced side, who has like a 3D system. Again, like Ian Meller, who came up here and I posted a couple videos with recently. Someone like that could look at numbers and go, oh shit, you're putting a crazy amount of stress on your lower back. He was able to do that for me with my wrist. He was able to literally quantify and show me, this is why your wrist hurts. These are the type of things that you can do over time to hopefully reduce that stress, or you have to, whatever, hit less balls. You have to, that type of thing. So it's kind of impossible, Jack, to be honest with you, to tell you exactly what to do, but I would have it looked at by someone who's a professional in terms of what's the actual injury. Get someone who knows what they're talking about to tell you it might need to be rested for a long period of time. And then is there something you're doing in your golf swing that is making it worse? A lot of people live with certain amounts. I mean, Freddie Couples has played an entire career. He can't just fix his back pain. He's got to live with it to some degree. So the more information you can get, the better. What would I say to someone who looks like Ernie Els on the range, but as soon as they're on the course or TrackMan, swings much harder? I'm assuming you mean and has a lack of club face control. It's between the ears, my friend. I can tell you that from experience. The range and the golf course don't have that much in common. The range will show you what you are physically able to do. It will show you that. If you cannot do something in a TrackMan or on a driving range, if you cannot do it, then that means you aren't physically capable of doing it. So let's just say you can't hit a draw physically, or you can't hit a ball 275 yards. So that's one thing. If you can do that with regularity and ease on the range, but you get on the golf course and every drive you hit ends up being a weird low pull that goes 245, and your 7-iron ball flight looks totally different. Now we're talking about an execution problem, a psychological difference in how you approach it, a routine, a state of mind, a heightened level of anxiety, a heart rate. There's that kind of thing. So, I can see how a lot of people, and there's coaches that get to a point where they're like, I don't even teach technique with most people, because it's like they've got their technique. It's not that bad. Their main problem is that when they get out on the golf course, they perform at a level that is miles below their physical potential. And I am at times like that. I would say that my physical potential and my on-course performance are usually massively different. So, I know for a fact the reason I'm like that, because I literally have an anxiety disorder, but for most people, any difference in your state of mind or how you approach it or how you react to the environment and the pressure of it, it's not shocking, man. It's not shocking. You would not be the only one. If I had the answer to that question, I would literally be a trillionaire. You literally need to pursue on-course coaching, mental coaching with someone who actually knows what they're doing. That's the type of thing that actually interests me over time, would be spending time with people on the golf course. The more I learn about it, the more interested I am in it, the more I experiment with it myself on the course, where I don't even worry about my technique at all, and I don't know, I go about a certain routine or a certain thought process, and I assess the result. The more interesting it gets to me. But yeah, that's probably what's going on. It's between the ears. What do I think of Mike Adams' coaching style, matching body types? So, to be honest with you, Barry, I don't really pay attention much to how other people coach. I have to be totally honest with that. I find things interesting sometimes when I look at other things, but I don't know. I try to trust my own mind, and over time, the way that I coach people and fit people is already developed in 2 years, because I'm just doing it based on what I think works. I've had people come in here that have been taught by someone like that and felt like, I don't know, it either did or did not work for them, or they felt they had no results from it. I've had someone come in today that told me that they've never drawn a ball before. Their coach never told them what I told them. They hit 1 million draws today. It's like, what can you say? You know what I mean? Everyone has their approach to it. There's no one that's figured out, coaching. I think the analysis part of coaching has exceeded what's necessary. I don't think we need to know anything else about analyzing a swing. I think we are in the stone ages of getting people to execute it. And it's not the coach's fault exclusively, believe me. It's also to do with how people actually practice and what they do when they practice and their expectations and the amount of time they think it should take and what they're doing in between in terms of playing golf. So I think the analysis side of golf, the opinion side of golf, this is how you should sequence your downswing shit. We don't need more of that. But no one needs more of that. The same way that we don't need more, I don't know, micromillimeter improvements in drivers every 6 months. We don't. Golf has reached such a crazy point of that. Why aren't people getting way better with the information and technology that we now have? Why aren't people getting just crazy better at high rates? That's a major question that I find very interesting, and I think I would like to spend some time on. And I also would like to spend some time on the fact that why are a lot of people not even really enjoying playing? I mean, that's a major question. I find myself thinking about that a lot. When I play, it's like if you're not playing well and you're not enjoying yourself, what the fuck are you even doing out there? And that is a massive number of people who, if they really looked at it and they played 100 rounds a year and they looked at those rounds and you had to put their hand on a Bible and tell you, did you enjoy? How many rounds did you think you had fun, like legitimate fun, and you were relaxed and at peace? There are people who would say 0, and I've been that person many times, and I find myself in that vein even right now, which is why I haven't been playing very much. So there's things I think that are more interesting than, like, enough of the analysis stuff, enough, you know what I mean? Enough is enough. I think it's more about, like, actually helping people actually make changes, permanent changes, changing their mindset, changing their ability to swing a club and their ability to execute on the golf course, and then more importantly, to actually enjoy themselves. Because most of us, as fun as the sort of the hope side and the pursuing of better technique is, as fun as all that is, you get to a point where it starts to actually make you miserable. And then you have to ask yourself why you would dedicate all your free time and disposable income to something that actually really disappoints you. So without going too far on that, that's something that I think, I want to talk more about. And maybe it just would be, on lives, like conversationally, or, I'm not really a big podcast guy, but, I would go on someone's podcast and talk about that because it's interesting. I mean, I can't think of another sport that people are so miserable when they do. Hockey's an interesting one. I play a bit of hockey with my friends. I would say that's usually more of like an anger thing because something occurred or someone else pissed someone off on the ice. But I don't see it as much about guys like coming off and like frustrated with themselves as much, like, oh, I'm playing so bad today. Like, you kind of accept the way that you are. I play this for fun. I'm here to see my friends. If I have a bad game, who gives a shit? It's not a great example, but like I feel like golf is just it's borderline toxic for some people. So those are the types of things that I think about. Steven is asking, would casting actually help with driver? For some people, yes, it would. And also people's perception of what casting means is skewed. So a lot of people think that allowing the angles of the wrist to naturally come out prior to impact, especially with a driver, is casting. It's definitely not what casting is. I have seen, and I'm not joking, almost no one that casting is their problem in here. And there's no way that I'm in some sort of like, I don't know, bubble where people don't cast in this area of Canada. It is almost always people hanging onto the club, pulling it across them, and then at the last minute trying their best to cast it. But they're not allowing the club to naturally lower and unhinge and rotate and close and get in a dynamic position to be hit well. Again, specifically with the driver. You can kind of get away with this shit with other clubs, but the driver really exposes it. So to answer your question, for some people, the feeling of casting, if done correctly and shown to them correctly, could actually be down the right path. Coffee and Cars, thanks you, buddy. Yep, I appreciate it. Yep, it's my first live in a long time, so I haven't even been doing it, so it's not like you haven't been missing it. Okay, so Daniel says, I find my swing is it's out in a lot with a slightly open face, but when it's a huge hook and my push is like a slap right. Yeah, I mean, if your path is moving dominantly outside in and it's usually open, you'll mix in the occasional hook. It's just I can guarantee you that your dynamic face position in transition is probably open, and so your initial motion is to get the club moving outside in. But at times, you will overtime a late correction and shut the face. So I see it all the time, all the time. Again, there's a lot of this stuff that if you were sitting in here working with me, I would just manually show you, but hopefully that's at least a bit helpful. Justin finds that Jumbo Max XL grips are great for his iron play, but they hurt his hybrid and woods game. Complicated question, but I would have a hard time ever recommending someone playing different grips across the bag. I would have a really hard time. A really hard time recommending that, because to say that it's anything but placebo, I think is a stretch. Honestly, I can listen. If you feel like you're hitting your irons well, it's probably because you're hitting your irons well. You know, the XL size grip, does it theoretically lower the rotation of sort of maybe the wrist? It should, but you should be able to override that in time. Do you know what I mean? So like take Bryson, for example. Bryson can hit a huge draw as much as anyone with a crazy weak grip. So it doesn't mean these things prevent, it just means that they have influence. But you can easily override those things. You have to remember that whatever goes on in your swing, whatever faults, whatever tendencies, whatever patterns, the longer clubs, basically as soon as you leave the irons, especially when you leave the mid irons, all those things get worse. So if you're getting away with something, you're gonna stop getting away with it. So that's the easiest way I can describe it. I really don't recommend playing different grips, you know, in different clubs. I don't. If there's players on tour that do it, great. They play golf for a living. They can do whatever the fuck they want. If there's someone that plays amazing golf and they do it, great. But if you're struggling and you're looking at a lot of these bits and bobs and like odd things with equipment, it's usually a search. And I usually just say to people, you should probably just go somewhere and have someone really good look properly at your swing objectively with data and cameras and go, here's what's actually happening. Don't waste your time with X, Y, and Z. I mean, and I'm not picking on people, but I can recall conversations I've had with people who, again, are hoping to break 90 or they're hoping to get under 100 on a consistent basis. And they're asking me things about like balance points and wraps of tape and CG positions on irons and stuff like that. And you just have to separate, am I having fun tinkering with equipment? Great, that part is totally fine. Am I using it as an expectation that I will play better golf? That is delusional and detrimental. And I literally mean that. I don't think I'm wording that too strongly. It's legitimately delusional and it's holding you back because it's not helping you and you are wasting your time and thought on it when you should be spending your time and money getting your technique assessed and worked on and then executing the practice and changes. Again, hopefully you can find someone that can actually do that for you effectively, because I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. There's a lot of shit coaching that goes on. There really is, and there's a lot of people that come in to see me, and I'm not exactly a genius, but I've heard some of the craziest things I've ever heard in my life. Someone tell me that they were told to do by a coach, and I just go, well, I feel bad for you. Like, I feel bad that somebody wronged you that way. And you know, it's not that these people were coached by people with bad intentions, but it's just bad advice that doesn't produce results. If I'm in here with someone, I want to see the results. If you cannot produce the results, then what are we talking about? You know what I mean? What are we doing? If I can't show you what it feels like to rotate the club face enough to have a slightly closed face to path, if I cannot do that for you, then eventually, yeah, it's kind of on you, but like we can just keep pushing it until you go, oh shit, that's what it feels like to actually have a draw pattern or this pattern. There's too much theory and let's talk about this position and it would be nice to be aware of it. It's like, dude, give me something. I want to know what to do. What do I do? What does it look like? How long is it going to take? Should I do it on the golf course? Am I going to play like shit for a while? The brass tacks. So try to find people that have that attitude. That's my opinion. What do I think the best low spinning ball, the lowest spinning ball on the market is? So Coffin Carson said left dash probably one. I mean, if you want a tour level ball that would be, you know, something that a professional player would consider playing, yeah, it would be like a left dash. But if you want the lowest spinning ball on the market would be like two-piece rocks, like buying Pinnacles, basically. If you want something insanely low spin, that's what you're talking about. Stuff like that. Barry, that's very nice of you. Thank you, my friend. Small token of appreciation. It's much appreciated. Much, much appreciated. Yep, as I said, guys, I mean, like I I, believe me, would in a heartbeat spend more time, and I intend to, on, let's say, the media side of the business and doing this. I do have to find a way to make it a little bit more financially viable. I don't want to be in a position where I have to charge people for every single question and stuff like that. But it helps when people are supportive. On the website, you may notice that I've posted something on our Golf Liberty website that, like, if you're out of area and you're looking to buy clubs, if you want to support a business like ours, ordering clubs at the rate that it costs everywhere else, the same price it costs everywhere else, we match everyone's pricing. It makes a big difference. Stuff like that just allows us to support the business and I wouldn't do this anyway, but to avoid becoming the type of place that has to ever, push stuff on people and has to do a certain amount of volume, and we have to have aftermarket shaft sales, and I don't ever want it to be like that, and I don't think it needs to be. So, it's very helpful, Barry. I appreciate that. Stuff like that makes a huge difference. And, if you're listening to this and you're like, I was going to order myself a Ping 5 wood, you can do it with us. You can do it with us. We can ship it to you. We can customize it for you. We have a little questionnaire thing. If you want to ask a question, you're like, I'm actually not sure about the exact setting. We don't mind answering a quick question there and sending you a quote. And if you end up buying it, great. We're doing stuff like that, obviously. So the nature of what goes on is we're in the first couple years of business here, and we're in unfortunately, the country's in a serious downturn. So we got to get a little bit creative in order to keep things moving in a good direction. I don't want I don't want the place to be at a point where it's it feels like we don't have enough people coming in. We want to make it accessible. I want more people coming in. We want different ways to be around, whether it's doing lives and online orders and stuff. So you'll see more of that stuff from us. It isn't because we're we really want to make this business worth $10 million and sell it. It's not about that. It's about the business becoming more mature and stable and less sensitive to stuff like what's going on right now with the economy. And that's basically what you're seeing from us right now. Is just I want to get it a little bit more broad and accessible to people so that we have a little bit more stability. That's all. Is there value in doing an indoor wedge fitting, or should that largely be done outside whenever possible? I think you should gauge it based on your skill level. A good fitter can give you good recommendations indoors based on easy stuff, angle of attack, delivered loft, and or shaft lean. Even path, technique, having cameras and stuff help to actually assess how a person. A lot of it's question and answer. Some of it's looking at what they have now and saying what's your bunker club? Not trying to mess with people too much. But yeah, in an ideal world, you want to be outdoors off real turf. I personally like the way that Vokey does it, where the fitters, and I think Bob was the one that I guess started that whole thing, was they hand you stuff blind. Essentially, you don't look at, they say no peeking. You don't look at the sole of it, so you don't technically know what loft, you can guess the loft, but you don't really know what bounce and grind you're hitting. And then you hit different shots and you assess the results. So in an ideal world, yeah, that's what I would be doing. I think you always have to be realistic. You're gonna find almost nowhere that even does stuff like that. Like a high level fitter that's able to do that, because, I'll be candid with you. That as a business plan is a nightmare. We basically make next to nothing off of selling a wedge. It's just the margins are terrible in general. When it comes to golf equipment, I'll be candid with you, it's not exactly a high margin business. So, to dedicate time to going outdoors, you'd have to charge a lot of money for the time itself. Then it becomes weather dependent. You have to have a facility available. It really changes the schedule. So, if you are in California and you can go book an outdoor Vokey fit session and you don't mind paying for it, of course, yeah, of course. But I've never had someone come back in 2 years go oh man, that wedge that we decided on is just brutal for me. It's they're aware of their technique. We know what we're making logical choices. I try to make people aware that once you've made the correct choice for your game, it's up to you. It's up to you. I was fit for wedges. I've been fit for wedges indoors at times. I've been fit for wedges outdoors at times. I have never hit a shot on the golf course that was crap and gone, man, that fitter really wronged me with that choice. It's no, dude, it's your fucking fault. Take some responsibility for your own technique. If someone comes in here and I say, hey, do you want to take a little bit of a risk? You're very shallow with your angle of attack. You really slide the club under there. I think you'd find that off a variety of lies, a lower bounce, kind of thinner sole wedge would be really great for you. And they hit some shots. Of course, it's off artificial turf. But that feels totally different. I feel like I can really make way better contact. Like, look at the height of the shots I can hit without even opening the face. Great. If that person goes and plays a couple rounds of golf, maybe in soft conditions, or who knows, I don't know, they get outside, they play different, they're nervous, they chunk a couple, and their buddies are saying, oh, you're chunking it now, eh? And then they look at their wedge, oh, you shouldn't have gotten a 4-degree bounce, you shouldn't have got a 6-degree bounce. Now you get this whole thing where you get someone going and writing a Google review, oh, this fitter's an idiot, he doesn't know what he's doing. Like, people in general, you have to take responsibility for your own, performance. You have to ask questions. You have to say what makes sense. You have to ask, hey, this low bounce wedge, if I need it to perform with more bounce, what do I do? And I would say, you can open the face and add a ton of bounce. You can lean the shaft back. You can add a ton of bounce. You can have another wedge in your bag, the middle wedge, that has more bounce. So use the club when it makes sense. So that's the type of thing. Wedge fitting is tricky, but again, you got to get this part straight. If you want the crazy best of the best, I play on tour type of fitting, you are going to spend an absurd amount of money on the time for the person to do it and the clubs themselves and the lead time for them. You need to be okay with spending, Canadian, you're talking about people buying over $10,000 bags of clubs. And as far as I can tell, that person is just not that common. If they want to get fit for clubs, they're looking to get their clubs, they're coming in February to get clubs for March or April. When are you doing that wedge fitting? You're going to do that wedge fitting once the grass matures in June, then you're going to wait a month for your wedges. So it's all about being realistic. It's you have to find a place where you have a person you trust that is got your best interest in mind. And yeah, it's not exactly a science because we're not hitting the ball as well as we all think we are. Even at a tour level, fitting a tour player, if you ever listened into those, it's not what people think. I mean, a lot of it is opinion and feel and, I feel like this comes out a certain way. It's a lot less scientific than you would think, and people should be okay with that. They should be okay with that. Any tips on how to increase angle of attack when drawing irons? I seem to always revert back to being 0 but can maintain -3 when playing cut. Yeah. It wouldn't be an easy answer. You'd have to look at how you're shallowing the club. So I'm guessing that the current way, or the way that you've made it happen to get the club more behind you at the moment, is producing a shallow angle of attack. It's pretty common. I mean, again, you got to pick your battles. I mean, if you think that the better way to play good golf and shoot lower scores is to make sure you're 3 or 4 degree down and hit a cut, then pursue it. If you tried hitting a draw and you're more consistent, you hit more fairways and greens, you have a little bit of a limitation where you don't hit that hard down on the ball, you might need to, at the moment, pick one of those devils. It's a lot harder than you would think to get someone, especially if you've recently gone from being, let's say, steep fade to draw. There's a part of a process where that person will probably be pretty sweepy. I mean, I can remember years ago when I was a pretty steep 0 path kind of guy, and many years ago, it was 9 years ago, and Larry got me into a draw pattern, which has stuck since, which is great. I can remember a long period of time where I think my angle of attack was 0 with a 7-iron. And if I only cared about that, if I only pursued changing that, would I have played better golf at the time? 100% not. There's so many dimensions to hitting down on the ball, your body rotation, your tilts, there's a million things. So be careful you're not about to do more damage than good, because it sounds like you've made some progress that you were trying to make. Be okay with limitations. You'd be amazed how sometimes a player that's a +2, you would think they have this amazing delivery and their numbers look a certain way and their strike point look a certain way. Not usually. There's usually a lot more weird stuff going on than you would think. How important do I think choosing the right iron shaft is? It seems like the fittings I've been to just throw me in a project shaft that really test them out. I think that it's shaft performance in an iron is, generally speaking, in terms of the ball flight itself, is significantly overrated and valued. The head, the loft, the ball are all going to make much larger actual ball flight numbered changes than pretty much any shaft I can even imagine. I can't imagine how you could configure a shaft differently. The shaft you want to have is something that you find easiest to consistently deliver your best version of strike point, your best version of face angle. Something that feels balanced to you, comfortable. It doesn't feel too light, too heavy. Doesn't feel like people need to be a little bit less picky. I get people who think that they will shoot in the 70s with a dynamic gold 120 S300, and they think they will shoot in the hundreds if they have a KBS Tour 130X. It's just not true. So again, the more you can release this stuff from your mind, you'd be amazed how much less it will matter to you. And you need to have data to prove it. And you can't just go into a fitting and hit shots and have sets of 10 and then sets of 10 switching between shafts and then go, oh, wow, look at the difference. Like, how do you know you were in the same mindset, making the exact same swings? What if you got kind of placeboed for a minute? You have to be careful with this stuff. So, you know, people come in here for an hour for an iron fitting. There's like 35 iron heads in here. So for the first 10 minutes, I need to see them hit their iron of some kind. I need to assess all the data in their swing pretty quickly. I need to shortlist heads that I know will make sense for them. I need to get that list narrowed down to one before the hour is over, and I also need to get the shaft narrowed down to one before that hour is over. So if you want to be the type of person that hits a million different things, then you just have to go to a lot of fittings. You just have to pay and keep going. If I had a client that told me, hey, I'm going to come twice a week for 2 weeks, and I'm pretty sure we're decided on the head, but there's like 10 different shafts I want to hit, and I want to get data with all of them. Fine, book the time. But you cannot expect someone, you can't underestimate how difficult logistically it is to manage a person in that amount of time and give them actual value beyond just like hitting a bunch of shit. Because people's swings deteriorate over the course of an hour, they change, they get nervous, they hit one bad shot, they get placeboed so easily, they get distracted. It's complicated. It's very complicated. Thoughts on iron set gap wedge versus specialty? The majority of people should just get the iron set one. The majority, the vast majority. And I say that because the vast majority of people are playing a set that the gap wedge ends at 48 degrees anyway. So they're probably going to end up with a 52, a 56, and a 60 anyway. So if you're a slower player, that's not the case. You'll probably have a little less wedges, a little more head covers. But yeah, most people should not worry about having I mean, my next set, I don't even know if I have a 50-degree Vokey in my bag right now. I'll probably keep it, but I wouldn't be against testing the gap wedge of a set of irons for an next one. It's a lot of the time I think it's a bit of an ego thing. If you chip with it and you feel like it would affect your ability to chip and it's inconsistent in a way, or it comes off hotter, or you don't like the sole, whatever. Like, come up with a real reason. But most people you're using as a full swing club that goes shorter than your pitching wedge. And usually they will have a bigger gap between those two because the specialty style wedge has usually a little less speed coming off it and it's less forgiving. So if you want to be more consistently hitting greens, usually I would say, yeah, get the set one for most people. I would say 80+% of the sets, I'm guessing, if I had to look at my numbers, are 5 to gap wedge in here, I'm guessing. Some are 6 to gap wedge. I mean, a lot of people are buying clubs that they don't even use, and they don't use it very well. What's my favorite golf polo brand? I wouldn't say I really have one. It bounces around. At the moment, my Nike polos that say Golf Liberty are my favorite. How about that? Available on my website. Fair to assume iron shots on course are typically 5 yards shorter than shots from a mat in a simulator. Typically 500 RPMs higher, of course. For a lot of people, yes. It depends on the person, though. People that are really shallow, sweepy, low delivered loft, they probably wouldn't actually notice that much difference, if any. A lot of people go outside off real turf and get a little bit steeper because of actual fear of chunking the ball. So they end up often with a slightly lower launch angle and a slightly higher spin rate than indoors. And it's not, I don't personally think it's from what people think it is. I mean, if you hit behind the ball, yes, of course there's a difference between mats and grass. But if you're striking the golf ball first with a 7-iron, let's say, okay, there shouldn't be a difference. What I think happens is mentally, people make a bit of a different swing. They set up a little bit different. People lean into their forward side more outside. I see it all the time because they want to guarantee the strike. So from that perspective, it would be not unexpected to see what you've seen there. Yeah. Do I count on that for myself on the course? Probably not usually, because I'm not exactly, hitting the ball like a tour player, but I don't really chunk the ball as a miss. I'd be more likely to thin it. So I don't personally think I get outside and get steeper. If anything, I probably get shallower. So I don't really notice my iron distances do what you're describing. But it would be common with a lot of people. I would say hitting into the wind is another one. Like your actual way you hit a ball, even with a driver, you'd be amazed how people's angles of attack change, mine included. If I'm hitting on a quad and even if I'm outside, period, I don't hit up on it as much. It's not conscious, it's just what's happening. Like you're reacting to what's going on. People are conscious of like not hitting the ball as high because they're worried about losing it. Like there's a lot going on between the ears. I don't have to tell most people that, least of all me. Have I read the book Zen Golf? I have not. I'm not a big golf book guy, I have to be honest. What is a good driver shaft profile for a negative angle of attack in an aggressive transition? I really doubt a driver shaft would make a significant difference in what you're describing. I see people with that in here all the time. I could pick 15 shafts off the wall. They might find one is 1/4% better, on a rational basis for them. Practical, actual result difference, I don't see it. I would be more concerned with picking a head that really lets you get away with that move. And I would pursue working on the technical side of it, to be honest with you. I would work on getting that to be not the case. I would at least get to a point where you feel like you're at least not hitting down as hard on it. Now, if you're a really good ball striker and you feel like you do hit down on it a little bit and you have an aggressive transition, but you're a really good driver of the ball, you're not trying to solve this per se. I mean, you could pick any number of things. What are you trying to achieve? I wouldn't look at a shaft and try to change your ball flight, if that makes sense. Could you pick a Ventus, TR red because it has a stiffer handle and has an active tip section? Sure. But I bet you if you hit 1 million balls in here and actually looked at the data, I would be shocked if you saw more than a nose hair's difference between a Ventus blue profile. I think people need to be realistic about what actually goes on between these things. In fact, I need to make some videos about that with that exact title. Because it's not worth occupying so much time in your brain. That the head itself and your swing makes so much more difference than shaft profiles for the purposes of ball flight changes. Shaft profiles for the purposes of getting, again, your face angle and your strike point as good as it can be, or as comfortable as you can feel or as confident as you can feel, great. But I really don't pretty much ever pursue trying to change someone's ball flight with a shaft. I see it all the time. I see people come in with, hold on one second, sorry. I see people come in with a driver that they were fit for at a competitor, which is always fun to see. And they'll have something in it, and they'll say, yeah, the fitter said that I hit down, I gotta get my ball flight up a bit, so I have a Ventus red in there. It's like, I just don't see why you would do that. I would get the launch profile, spin profile, loft, dynamics of the head correct, and then put a shaft in that makes sense for their, call it speed, force production, I don't know, transition speed, things that you can actually, have more of an effect on. But people are just going, it's too crazy. I just think the whole shaft industry, I'm probably gonna get in shit for saying this, I just think it's it needs to be shaken up so hard. It's such a mess. It's so confusing. Yeah, I don't know. I don't care for a lot of it. I really don't. I just think that it just bogs people down. There's way too many choices. There's no believable or concrete reasons to try to tell people who are average players why they would invest in an aftermarket shaft. There's basically nowhere except like here where you can hit both. It's like impossible almost to like, get someone well fit and then them look at you and go, oh, what if I tried like a Ventus Blue in this? Would it be better? And I'm like, well, yeah, you can hit it. But like the number of times where all of a sudden they go, well, this is even better now. It's like, if the head wasn't working well and, let's call it a good quality, no upcharge shaft wasn't working well, I don't see people just all of a sudden getting these like crazy results, which is why the industry frustrates me. Because you've just got this massive disparity where you have people going, who gives a shit, throw whatever shaft in there, it makes no difference. And then you've got people going, if you don't have a $600 shaft in there, you are literally buying garbage. And it's like, as a consumer, it's insane. I mean, I'm looking at Titleist drivers that are 900 Canadian dollars. And there are people who are of the mind that if they don't make that 1,400 bucks with an upgraded shaft of some kind, they're buying something inferior. It's just like, it's madness. And these are players of, let's call it average skill level. So yeah, the whole thing I get a little bit discouraged by it at times because I have a very hard time giving people a concrete answer, because it's just like, what do you say other than it needs to actually work better for you? It needs to actually do something for you. Yes, I can tell you that it costs more to make. Of course it costs more to make. Yes, I can tell you that I'm sure some of them have better quality control if it was measured independently. Of course we know those things. But how can I be sure that in a practical situation, with an average player or even a better than average player, that it actually produces $500 worth of benefit to you in comparison to any number of other ways to spend $500, let's just say, including a series of lessons, including a refreshed set of wedges, including buying yourself a fairway wood that you can actually hit. I could go on and on. And I just did, because I don't even know what that question was at this point. Sorry, I really went off on a shoulder and wrist pain, just having graphite shafts in your irons help that much. I would say it's better than nothing. I would not look for it to save your problems. But if you want to chip away, like, you got to do a million things. If you got problems with wrist pain and shoulder pain in general, as you know, there's no magic bullet for anything. So it is a rational choice for you. If I were going to do it, I would be doing it if I was looking at a new set of irons, I would be doing it then, so that you can go with a company like Mizuno where you can get a set of MMTs for free. There, you just went graphite, didn't cost you anything. So that's how I would go about doing it. But it's vibration dampening. Of course it dampens vibration. But you don't know that your wrist pain and your shoulder pain are from vibration, let's just say. So it's not an irrational choice, but I don't know that I could tell you it's going to fix everything for you. I'd be surprised. What golf shoes do I use or prefer? I'm not that picky. I've been treated very nicely by many companies. Puma has sent me very nice shoes recently as just a lovely gift. So their stuff is great. In the past, probably had a few pair of Nike shoes that I really like. I'm not that picky. I think there are FootJoy shoes I think look really nice. Generally speaking, though, they're not really my style. I really, the ones I like from them are like the Premier ones, but those are really stiff, and I don't know if I would really I try to walk when I play golf, so I don't know if I really want to walk in a golf shoe like that. But yeah, I think for the money and the styles and stuff, I think at the moment, I guess I find myself wearing Puma shoes more often than other stuff for whatever that's worth. But I know there's people that are loyal to certain things for certain reasons, and FootJoy has like the wide models and like the you can order a shoe of different sizes left and right. Like there's a reason their warranty's crazy. Like there's reasons people go that route, which is great. Okay, fit into Acra. I'm gonna get off in about 10 minutes, guys. Fit into Acra. I CW95 last month, started struggling like crazy. Went to old shafts and it disappeared. Ever see people struggle that much with a shaft? Yes. But I think realistically, there has to be a damage to the confidence that initiates this like severe change in performance. I don't know. Just think somebody with a reasonably repeatable swing could probably play reasonable golf with a dozen or more different shafts. reasonable golf. I'm not saying they're best or they're perfect strikes or perfect fits, but I don't personally, because I literally look at swings in high speed while I'm fitting someone, I don't have the ability to tell myself and believe that there's a way that an equipment change like that can just make someone unable to hit a ball. You have to do something, to me, it has to be so extreme. It has to be so extreme. So, if what you had before was insanely different, then maybe. I don't know, hard to say. But confidence is a hell of a drug. If you switched and you started hitting a certain type of ball flight, you had a bad experience in your first round, something happened, you lost faith in what you have in your hands, again, confidence is a hell of a drug. Yes, you could struggle like crazy from that. Is there a purely rational reason that something insanely drastic like that should happen between two reasonably similar shafts? Not really. But, I will say it for the 50th time. The brain is a pretty powerful thing, and it can mess with you. Does a G400 still hold up versus a G440? I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I haven't hit a G400 in a long time. I don't have old clubs, lying around. If I've said this to a few people, if I had to pay for clubs, and let's say I bought a G400, and I was given a G400 at TXG, which is great. I think Ping sent us one or something after a review. Let's say that was the last time I, got a driver that I didn't have to pay for, or I paid for that one. Would I probably still be using it for my own money? Probably. Yeah, I would probably spend my disposable income on a membership for golf and trips, and I would probably stick to a club like that. You got to remember, though, that I really see a lot of data when it comes to clubs. So I know when something is drastically different, and I know when something was actually a pretty good driver. So there's people that a G440, because of features that have been added, let's just say the different sleeve, the different weight ability to move, there will be people that for that person, it is a big difference. There will be people that hit a G400 really well, and the middle face performance is probably not that different, and the mishit performance maybe for their particular mishit is actually still pretty good. I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked. And I'm mainly saying that because I think a G400 was a really good head. But again, what does hold up mean to you, right? Like what are you willing to pay for what amount of improvement? Some people are willing to pay a lot of money for almost nothing. And some people are willing to put up with something that doesn't work very well at all just to not spend money. So depends on the guy. My wife's driver speed is 73 to 75. Launch and spin are obviously at a premium. Ball that worked so far is a true feel based on 7-iron. Just wondering what the ball choice is. Yes. I don't really think you're going to see that much difference off the driver based on the ball choice. I really don't. Short of hitting a Kirkland off the tee, I don't see many balls spin in crazy different windows off of a driver, especially at low swing speeds. So I would be, if you want more launch and spin, I would look at the driver itself, loft, spin profile, those types of things. Okay, I'm only going to take a couple more because I want to go home. New drivers are much more consistent across the field. Yeah, I do agree with that. Yep. New drivers are much better across the face. There's frequent times when someone hits a shot in here with like a G440 or like a GT2 or a Callaway or something, and I look at the strike location in millimeters, and then I look at the result and I go, there's no way. So yes, they're definitely better at that. But again, newer. We're not talking about like last year. We're talking about like they've progressed a lot in the last 4 or 5 years. But you got to be realistic and you got to assess it and actually get some numbers. But yeah, look for that. The forgiveness improvements are definitely there, and people need to not worry about what happens out of the middle of the face so much unless they've been poorly fit. Casey, you're welcome. Yep. Yeah, the video and stock shafts, like I'll do more stuff like that. It's not that I want to bash aftermarket stuff. It's just like I'm a realist. People that come in here, they fill out a little quick questionnaire before they come in for their appointment, and it asks them, are you interested? Like, are you willing to budget for aftermarket stuff? I can tell you the vast majority say no. I can tell you that candidly. And this is, Toronto is not exactly a city that doesn't have affluent people. Like, it's not like there aren't people who are willing to spend money, but I'm telling you that the vast majority of people are not even willing to do it. So if that's the case, then we have to look at what stock shafts are actually capable of doing. Are they actually poor? Are they actually causing people deficiencies? I don't think so, because I watch people hit balls all day, every day, and look at the data. And if the performance was poor and they were getting all kinds of weird results and it was all over the place, and then we all of a sudden pop a Ventus in and it's like, oh wow, this guy's hitting it like a tour player. If that was occurring, then the entire industry would be different. And in my opinion, the entire shaft industry should be blown up from day one, right now. What should happen is that agreements between head manufacturers, and I'm mostly talking about woods and stuff, because steel I just think is a different animal. Most people don't really go after market in steel anyway. I think that the whole stock shaft thing just needs to cease. These companies that want to look us in the eye and charge 900 bucks Canadian for a driver should be making deals with Fujikuras and Graphite Design, and they should be spending whatever it costs them in volume to put what is an aftermarket quality shaft in every single driver. Because if it is that important and these companies are telling us the truth and it is worth the investment, then why are companies spending millions in engineering and again, charging close to a grand for a driver head and then putting something in it that we're being told is more or less, it's fine. So it doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. It's frustrating to me. A lot of people can see through it, but a lot of people, I think it bugs them and it prevents them from even looking at new equipment because they feel like, well, I'm not gonna spend 900 bucks on a driver and the shaft's not even gonna be any good. It's too confusing. There's, in my opinion, there is no independent, like truly unbiased data. There's no unbiased like tests and measurements saying like what exactly is going to happen with these things. We have theories, we have the boilerplate, we know they cost more to make, we know the quality of the carbon fibers. I know all those things. I know those things. I've seen them make them, but what practically is happening for a guy who's a normal person, right? So have I played golf with plus handicaps who have stock and everything and whip my ass all the time while I'm sitting there with a $10,000 bag of clubs? So you have to be realistic. And yeah, it bugs me. It bugs me the way the industry has allowed this to continue. And it bugs me the way that the prices of stuff just continue to go up, but that doesn't seem to be changing. They're not really giving you anything technically for your increased dollar. They're saying the same kind of stuff on a yearly basis. So I can see why people get frustrated. It frustrates me as someone, running the business. And I have absolutely no problem when somebody says, I don't have any interest in buying an aftermarket shaft. I go, okay, fine. Let me move on with my fit. Frankly, it's less complicated. And if someone comes in and says, I just want to reduce, I want the peace of mind, I don't want to think about it, yes, fit me for an aftermarket shaft driver, great, fine. But to say it's always a necessity and it's like this huge priority, and it's like at the very minimum, unless you're swinging with quite a bit of speed or you got to be a pretty good player to have a practical chance of actually having it make a difference for you, honestly. And I'll say that candidly. I'll probably be in shit and get a lot of mean emails. But like, what do you want me to say? I mean, I watch people hit balls all day, every single day. And if it was making this crazy difference beyond placebo, we would see it. We would see it. So I think that whole part of the industry needs to change. I think a lot of the industry needs to change. But the shaft thing alone drives me absolutely insane. And iron shafts drive me absolutely insane as well because it confuses people and people are being given information that's just bonkers and it is so not proven in ball flight change and it just makes them all over the place and it makes them insecure about what they're choosing and yeah, it bugs me. When can we see what's in the bag? It hasn't changed, to be honest, so not anytime soon. Not anytime soon. Okay, I do need to wrap this up. I'm back to my old ways of saying I'm going to wrap it up, and I'm not. Let me just pick a couple quick ones here, guys, if you don't mind. Forgive me if I ignored yours. Don't take it personally. I will try to do this more frequently. How to solve inside takeaway with driver. Hack motion telling me plus 22 to plus 27. You're saying inside takeaway from like what your wrist is doing, or you're literally just pulling the club inside? It would depend on what you mean. Are you flexing your wrist excessively? Or is that a wrist rotation number? Yeah, I would need to know exactly what you mean. But to be honest with you, takeaway related stuff, because it's so simple, camera is how I would be addressing it. I mean, I don't personally think for simple takeaway stuff, I don't know how much wrist data you really need. I would rather set my phone up and just leave the camera running and come and look at swings. That's my opinion. But my opinion on mini drivers is that they are for a very small number of people who actually benefit from them. I get why people buy them. I get why they sell. I get it. I can see why a few tour players use them. I personally don't think people should give up on trying to hit a real driver. I think part of the game that's enjoyable is being able to hit a driver functionally. Yes, it gives you the best chance to hit the ball the furthest, unless your swing is a certain way and there's no way you're going to make good contact with it or something. I mean, I don't mind that mini drivers exist. I just think that there's an obsession with them as some kind of like godsend. And I think it's just, it's a niche product. Like a lot of things are niche products. Like a 13-degree 3-wood is a really niche product. I think a mini driver is not that different than that. Okay, saw you added 2 new fitters to the studio recently. What was that process like? Yeah, I mean, it's the reality of it is the way that I want to do it is that people that are coming here to work now are spending time with me. They're spending time in the shop. They're hanging out for sessions. They're learning by doing. They're getting a chance to work with people at an introductory rate, the same way that I did it when I opened the shop. They're developing their own style, but there's, we have non-negotiables at the shop about how we treat people and how we don't try to upsell and upcharge people. We try to produce practical results from coaching. We use the high-speed cameras and the data to help people learn properly. We're not messing around with just theories and talking for 45 minutes. We're practical. We're that. So what is that process like? It's what we're finding out, kind of thing. So Eric, who's available to book on the website, he's been here for a few weeks now. He's probably done a couple weeks of sessions himself, already getting great feedback, from his clients, which is great. Still spending time together on a regular basis. Kieran's just starting. We're going to start to get him a little bit busier as well. Just different times of day where people will be available. So, I mean, what is the process like? It's honestly, guys, it's just I take things day by day. I personally think that we've built a place and a philosophy that people should want to come to, that they should want to go out of their way to come here, that they can trust it. Anyone that works here will be obviously working here under the condition that I'm okay with how they do things, obviously. The philosophy that I set out to do with the business has to be maintained. There's nothing more important. Not everyone has to be, I'm not some sort of genius of swing and fitting. No one is, I promise you that's not the case. But treating people well, making sure they get practical results, and you give them logical, rational advice. You don't squeeze money out of them unnecessarily. You don't recommend things they don't really need. That kind of stuff that has to be the case. And I've been lucky to have 2 guys that were really interested in doing it, starting on a part-time basis and seeing how it goes for them and seeing how it goes for us as well. And I personally think that's the best way of doing it because I don't know, you can't go to school for a lot of things in life. There are things you have to go to school for, but this in particular, I think coaching people, dealing with personalities, dealing with equipment, swings, is a learn by doing type of thing. You need to see a bajillion scenarios, learn how to solve them with that person's learning style and personality and their egos. And as I joke with many people, I feel like sometimes I'm in here giving someone a therapy session. You have to have a lot of stuff going on there, and it takes a certain type of personality. And so I think we're providing the environment. I'm providing the coaching and the mentoring and stuff. These are great guys. I believe in them, and it's obviously going to be up to them to prove that with their sessions that that they can do a good job, and I don't see any reason why they wouldn't. We've already gotten good feedback from them, and I just think that the place itself, this is the right way to do this with people, even if you're being fit, to have your swing being looked at from 2 or 3 angles, even if you're being fit for clubs, this is the way to do it. I don't personally believe in going somewhere that doesn't do that. I don't care what anyone thinks. I don't care what anyone does in their fit. If you're not looking at someone's swing with more than your naked eye, and you're trying to recommend them anything, clubs, swing, whatever, I don't believe in that. I just don't think you're actually giving them the full value. I don't think they're going to learn as much. I don't think that they're likely to get as good of a fit. So I've invested in that, and that's obviously why I have done it that way. Okay. Yeah, the weather here has been shit, so I haven't played much golf, and I have been a bit of a grumpy golfer lately. So I'm trying to get that out of my head. I have hit a few balls recently. I physically actually have been feeling a little bit better. So it's encouraging to not hit 10 balls and be like I'm tired or sore. So stuff like that is encouraging to me. So yeah, it's just weird. It's been a weird year, honestly. I feel like I've been in like a dream world since February. It's like things were on a really interesting trajectory with like the business and the economy, and then everything just fell off a cliff, as we all know, in March and ever since then. So, consumers in general are very hesitant, and it's a scary time to have a business when it's quieter than I believe it should be. But I'm still confident that when someone comes in here, I know that I'm giving them my best, and hopefully, as to my knowledge, no one's ever left unhappy. So as long as I can maintain that, I know that we'll get through this piece of it. And a big part of that is me getting more, not comfortable. It's just me getting back in the routine of doing this, because I like doing this. I like doing lives. As I said, I do need it to produce a little bit more revenue so we can pay the bills. And I do need videos to produce more revenue so we can pay the bills. But it is you have to start and get off your ass kind of a situation. I can't just expect that it will come out of nowhere. So that's what you're witnessing, is me getting off my ass. Yep, appreciate that, Dave. And Jack Nicklaus played with pretty light shafts. Yeah, there's all kinds of ways to skin a cat, as they say. Any chance of me getting back with Ian? I don't see a scenario where I have anyone of any sort of like level that a person like that is at, or has gone a different direction, whether or not I worked with them before. Me working with them in a business like this. This is a business that runs off me being the leader of the business. The videos are my style, they're my personality, they're my vision. So no, I'm not picking on him specifically, but no, I don't see that specifically with him, and I don't see that with others. When it comes to like making videos with other people in the industry, I don't know. Who knows? I try not to say no to things outright, because you never know, because sometimes people's opinions change over time and things change over time, so you never say never. But at the moment, I'm trying to focus on myself and building this place to be a little bit more of a a place that more people come to, and that we do more business and that we do more media stuff. And yeah, we're doing that. Videos about just having fun with buddies playing golf. Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, I have to get there. Again, if I leave for the day and film 18 holes, you got to understand, this place is very expensive. So if that video doesn't produce a certain amount of money, as much as I like to do it, as much as people might like it, people would be shocked about the economics of actually making videos. It's not what you think it is. So would I consider doing it in the future? 100%. But there's so many things that would need to be developing and changing, and my role would be changing here, more in a management role where, the day-to-day is a little bit more handled with a team of guys. And, I service, let's call it a smaller amount of the clientele that come in here, and I do more of the media stuff and travel more, and who knows, I'm open to all of those things, but I can't make those things happen like that. The opportunities have to be developed and present themselves, and I have to put my best attitude forward and be, continue to be hopefully transparent and honest with you guys. And so, that's what I can do, I think, in terms of continuing to develop the trust. And I think that's the value of coming here. That's why I want Golf Liberty to develop, is that if people trust the place, that's the reason to support a place like this. People can buy golf clubs literally anywhere. You can take lessons a million different places. I believe we have technical advantages and competitive advantages, but I think the main advantage is that trust is something you cannot buy in a store. You can buy it in the store, but it's something that you just can't replicate, and that's something that I'm proud of and that must be maintained. And I guess I probably just need to do a better job communicating it on a regular basis. Yeah, I mean, that's interesting, Michael. I wouldn't want it to be a pure simulator place. I have some ideas about having, a membership for some of our clients where we have Broom, but I don't have one now. Another hitting bay where you could be a member and come and practice exactly the way that you had your lesson and your fitting, so the same cameras and all that kind of stuff. We've got that as an idea. But again, these are things that need to happen over time. You got to remember, I'm less than 2 years into this. Basically self-funded it. There's debt. There's stuff that makes life stressful, and you got to be careful with stuff like that. I can't just throw all these ideas out and go, oh, this should be good. Yeah, you're hopefully going to see more of me because I've officially ripped the Band-Aid off and done a live. I'll leave this up for probably a week or two so people can watch it if they missed it, and then I probably won't leave lives up for ages and ages because they tend to, they date themselves. The questions become irrelevant over time. And work on some actual videos next week. I've actually written down a few ideas for things I want to make, so stay tuned for that. And thank you for tuning in. Even though you haven't seen me in ages, a lot of you did tune in, so I appreciate it.